get started?
Yep.
How was that driver? All right, so I guess we're ready to go. Where's the live stream? I think it's close to it now, right?
Yep.
Oh, all right, cool.
It'll be up momentarily.
We're live. I'm going to turn that one off.
It is publishing.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
All right. So, welcome to our November meeting. Last meeting they got on such a crappy night. All right. With that, let's just get started. So, let's do fast. First up, will be talk about some of the new Deploy Studio updates for those of you that use Deploy Studio. We'll talk about the Meetup Store cert issue that occurred last week. We'll talk about what's happening with Mac updates. We'll also talk about some of the new Office 2016 updates that have been happening in the Slack channel. We'll also talk about some changes to OSX training. And there's another thing that I had on the end that I forgot to put here. We'll also talk about the Hacker Mac competition at that frame that was just concluded on Tuesday. But first up, I'll talk about the Deploy Studio. So, Deploy Studio was just recently released a couple of updates. The 1.617 update had a full Capitan support, and the .18 update fixed these bugs with Capitan. So, if you're using it, make sure you're using that, because we'll be supporting the Capitan machines. Or if you're using Azure as an alternative, since that seems to be have more robust development and more current development. I think it was a very long time before the development was kind of lagged. So they were considered using Azure since that seems to be a more viable project. Next up is Mac App Store certificate issue. And last week on November 11th, one of the code signing certs that Apple uses for signing the apps in the Mac App Store expired. It was a 5-year cert, and I guess the 11th was its expiration date. So that ended up giving us a lot of users if they couldn't open any of the apps or just crash. Apple eventually fixed that by reissuing new certs. But the usually meant that they had to reboot the machine or kill the App Store process in order for it to pick up the new cert. So it was not very well received. I think what they call it mass apocalypse. What's called? So you look at the slides, so there's a link to aggregate post that lists all the reactions happening as it happened. So, and Mac updates. So, for way long ago, there used to be a bunch of different sites that you could go to download Mac software. Version Tracker, download.com, Mac updates. And for a long time, a lot of these places just link to manufacturer or vendor packages or DMGs that you just download forever. And one by one, my documents have been basically taking the vendor product and wrapping an app or some other thing that either installs adware or unwanted software that you have to pay attention to opt out of. And Map Update has recently decided that they're going to explore some of these options in a bid to increase the revenue stream. So yeah, so they hired experimented some of these adware installers for non-users. Apparently, as Shadow Mac update on Slack channel, it said members don't see any of this. But if you're a member, you're paying Mac update to keep your apps updated all the time. Because I have a desktop app that I think just holds. I'm not sure about the app. Don't know too much about it, but I imagine it does some of the same kind of things as other packages and just keeps your machine updated. So yeah, so I linked here the official statement that is on the Mac Update website, Beacon. So Chatham Mac Update, that's his at Chatham Mac Update, that's his handle on Slack. He showed up, I think it was on the 17th, so a couple days ago, and we basically started engaging the community by explaining what they were doing. And looking and soliciting feedback from the Mac admins, because as Chatham Mac Update has stated, their goal is to be useful to consumers and developers and sysadmins, Mac admins in general. And as you can imagine, there was a lot of pushback against their proposed changes. Because nobody likes adware, especially us sysadmins. Also put the links, so they actually, chat section also said that they are soliciting feedback. This is where you can go to tell them what you think of the proposed changes. So those of you who have an opinion on this and would like to express it, that's where you go. And as an example, this was, as of today, this is the VLC Media installer that you pulled from Mac today. This is for non-members. That's crap. Yeah.
I'm ashamed.
So next, we're talking about the Office 2016 installer updates. So in a similar way, P-voting from the Office installer team works on specifically on developing the installers as engaging Mac admins in the Microsoft channel on Mac admin Slack. And basically, been a font of information has been disgorging to all of us about how things happen, what things are coming up, and a lot of that stuff has been documented. It's all in the Slack channel. If you have, it's on the archives, so, but you have to be logged into Slack to actually see all this stuff. So eHoltman has been documenting that his website, which I linked to here. So for those of you who need to catch up, look there first. So just check the Slack for that. But basically, TMGL. Microsoft basically heard our complaints, and Paul has basically said this, that the thing about the installer using like the wrong scripts, or the wrong commands in the script, always assuming a login user, that should all be fixed in the December update of the volume installer. So it should log in when there is no user, it should also log, it should show console. It should work when there's no login user. Right? It should work if the user is no one. So, there's also some other things that he was mentioning about having a separate licensing app, licensing tool. So you could basically do the logs and just pulling the current versions from our package, and then just using the tool to license that with your volume license. So, but I think that's something as a coming soon. Yeah.
After reading this, I tried it the other night. So
Yep.
what you do is you go into the volume licensing center, the Microsoft Volume License Center, pull down the volume license package, and extract the sub package that only does the volume licensing. And then you download a generic, there's now like sort of a demo mode. So there's a public download for 2016 that if you don't have a volume license, it just asks for your Office 365 login. So if you install that and then you install a licensing following that, the volume license package that you extracted, then it's volume license, but it's the latest version. So
Right.
you don't have to wait for the volume license to update.
You need it.
Yeah, what was mentioned in Mike is that
You need a
you
volume
can download the
Oh, no, that's-
license package from the VLCC site.
Check out that.
And extract the license update and then run that
They
along
got
with
your
the
system.
generic Office apps that you get. Since the default is not licensed, that would mean that they will try to connect to Office 365. But if you write the license updater package, that will license that those applications for. So we get the slide, or check out the slide, and look at the Microsoft Office channel, and just do a search for keyboard, and then you see everything he's been saying. So you can check all that stuff out. Next is about the changes in map training. Specifically, ACT is going away. There's no ACT schedule coming for County Town, which means those of you who have the ACTC 70, you are relaxed. Being an active certified support professional, that means, but that's up to you whether or not to find any value. There is some mention that there may be some unofficial OSX server expected in the future, but I'm not sure if that's going to be officially certified track course. So details of that I'm sure will be forthcoming. And thanks to Cryptid here for this. So we'll make sure this pop up to this post and read a little bit more about what he has to say. And we're going to talk about Hack the Map. So Map Training has been running for the last couple of years, this Hack the Map competition, which they invite developers and system admins to write a particular project that should help users. And Tuesday was the finals. First place went to Rescue Robot, which was written a combination of Elliot Jordan, Shay Craig, and Eric Arnold. What was it? So basically what it does is completely automates from start to finish the creation of usable package recipes. All you have to do is either drop in an app or URL or Sparkle feed, and it will do the rest for you. So the second place winner was NPI. And this is I think it's an object C that makes install, which stands for system inventory. So, Deploy Studio, Casper Vision, and the third place was Zenfall, which is a web-based list query. And you can use that with Casper and the Sound to basically generate the list queries. For those of you who don't know what list query is, it's essentially the tools that I think was Facebook developed that that will basically query any activity on the map, and you can use that to help track malware installations, other security breaches, maybe help with PCI compliance and that's before. And the Zen basically it all makes it easier to work with the data that you have. So in the link of the slide, when the slides get posted, there's a demo with a video from Mac of all three in action. So the Zenfile one is probably one to take a look at. At least three of them is almost so and that's all these links are live, so you can see all those. The links there are to GitHub repositories for each of those apps. So when you get a chance, do check those out because it's some really nice stuff. And that's pretty much what I have. So well, without further ado, we'll make way for Jeremy.
Everybody can stretch. You're all sitting in the car. Hi, I'm Jeremy Reichman, manager Army on Twitter, and thanks for letting me speak this evening at the great precipitation area. Tonight I'm going to be speaking about versions for OS 10. Versions are just the most exciting topic ever, and for some reason, I'm really into versions. So I put together this presentation for this meetup, and I'm really looking forward to not having to work on it anymore, and maybe like some star cracks and stuff that's the version that just came out. I mean, it's like 17 years of history there. Although, even though I've been playing that game for 17 years, apparently, they didn't send me an email telling me the version was out. So, what happens when we encounter versions in the wild of OS 10? Let's start with OS 10 itself. It has human-friendly, market-friendly, major and minor release numbers. The higher and longer version numbers are newer. Pretty obvious. We've managed Mac, so we've seen that before. So this goes way back to OS 10 and back when it was still on disk. It's the first one in that sequence, first three, I think. We're still on CD. I got the DVD later on. Quick, which CD or DVD is missing?
Server.
10.4 Intel. 10.4 Intel.
Well, yeah, that one is missing, yes, but there's one after.
10.0 server.
Nobody got it.
10.6. Well, 10.6 is.
Yeah, 10.6, there was one more disk, 10.6 on the slide. Okay, that didn't go over as well, but. So this goes from 10.0 to 10.5, there was one more disk after that.
Oh.
Yes, there were some Intel and computer specific releases in the middle.
We thought you meant within this range. I thought there should be no.
Well, yeah, I'm missing all this OS 10 server movement too, so.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
There we go.
There's no public beta.
Everybody should have sat on the other side of the all right, so the major and minor version numbers we get, all Mac OS 10 versions start with 10, at least up to this point. We have major versions in the next spot, and then the last spot is the minor version. And we've seen strange numbers like .11 in the past. We've obviously seen a lot of 10.10 and 10.11 releases now that have this, even gotten the major versions of the release digit range. We used to get about this Mac Windows like this, going back 10 years now, 5. So last year we had 10.5, and 10 years before that we had 10.5. So it has kind of years since we've been watching this for a long time. You can pick these numbers up not only in the about this Mac window, but also with the SWVerse command, which I'm sure you're familiar with. We can also get versions in packages, and this is where a lot of us deal with version numbers for package deployments. To get some information about those, we can use commands like package util --info, and then the package ID of a package that has been installed, and that will display the version of the package that was put in the receipts database. This can be really useful if you want to determine what was the last version of something that got installed. And as you can see, Apple is really great with these long version numbers for packages. Normal packages that you get from other vendors are almost always 1.0 because vendors make bad packages. No, I'm just kidding. There are a lot of them that aren't Cisco that have better version for their packages. We can also find out more about how version numbers are used in packages by checking out the installer logs, which is my favorite keyboard combination of Command L and Command 3. And when you do that, you can see things like the install item. When I first installed this particular package, which is SD formatter, which you may have used if you have done it with a Raspberry Pi. In this case, it's the first install of this package. So it was listed as an install. But if I go and find that package later, and look for it, because it has a really long package ID. So I use the package command and grab through that. So once I had that, I then forgot the package. And you can see that when I run it to get that package again, it comes through as an upgrade. So in older versions of the package format, before the flat package format, there actually used to be different actions you can take between install and upgrade. Now you don't have those same kinds of actions, but the installer framework still shows you that something is upgraded over top of what was already good. So some other specimens in the model, we have version numbers and bundles. And one way I like to get these out is with Monkey's make package info command. If you're not using Monkey, this is still a useful command to know about. Monkey project has a very useful set of functions that are in Python and some command line tools that help you if you're not using Monkey. This is one of them. When you get this information about Xcode, you get some output that trimmed down. So this is similar to some of the stuff we talked about last month when we talked about Monkey. Monkey does pay attention to these version numbers and the information that is inside application bundles and other frameworks. In this particular case, this Monkey tool will tell us that the version of the Xcode app bundle is 6.4. It also gives us the second bundle version attribute. And depending on which application you're talking about, one of those numbers is usually accurate. Sometimes both of them, but it can be useful to know which of them is going to tell you more about the application and whether one application is newer than another. And then if you look at the bottom, the final key, the version comparison key, and actually using Monkey. Monkey, it can be configured to use one of the two versions above, and we're comparing one framework or one application against another. Getting some information about command line tools. I can find out the version of the tool, found a version of things like cups with the cups config version command. these because they all, there's a thread between them all. So you can guess it, it's guessing things that go over so well. Next one is the bash version, the NTDE version. And the last one we'll look at is the OpenSSL version. They all have great version numbers, you can see. So all this text gets spit out in the command line tool. It means we had to like parse version numbers out of this, so it can be recommended. But anybody know what's in common with all of these command line tools?
Version.
Yes, they all have versions, that's good.
I mean, that's the way that you get the version.
So if we have an adoption here, security vulnerability announcements, these things have been updated often by Apple. Although I'd like to point out, cups actually did get updated. They got some sort of updates rolled into it. But it was not documented. There were release notes from Apple, and the version number did not meet them. So if you're doing any sort of vulnerability scanning, watch out for that. There's some inventory tools. You can also get the version of the gem binary, and there's this location. Some talk of people upgrading to 981. I just put in a thing called 982. That was probably it, because I did not copy these things. And we also have Factor, which is from Public, and it has various version numbers that you can find out more information, find more information in just a minute. In this case, I'm just getting the version of the OS. So Factor, I give it a specific version or attribute I'm looking for, and it's out this particular text. There's lots of other things that Public that Factor can tell about your system. Version numbers, they can usually give you individual pieces of things like this. So I think there's one attribute that would give you just 10 one, and another one that would give you the build number. So string. So as you may know, we all deal with version numbers, but we end up having to deal with them as strings a lot because they don't get treated as numbers. So X begins with Y, X ends with Y, X is like Y. This is the kind of way we end up having to compare versions a lot of the time. Casper does this, for example. Certain places in Monkey do this. I don't know if anybody have any other tools they want to bring up that you have to compare versions of strings. When we do those comparisons, we often have to use if and case statements to figure out whether one version is greater than another or just equal to. So an example of this, just pulling from the other popular Rich Trout, some of his scripts, used with his permission. He is pulling out SW for his product version, which is a way to get just the product version with the SW version and pipe that to log. Split that on the periods and print the second component, which for OS 10.11.1 becomes 11. So the way that will commonly get used is, as I said, another script you'll probably be pulling just that as second number or maybe the third component of the version number in OS 10 in order to compare it numerically. This has been going on for many years on OS 10. But you can also compare versions as numbers depending on what tools you have available, what languages you're using. It'd be nice to be able to compare those numbers if they look like numbers and say, are they equal or not equal, are they greater than or less than? Like be able to treat them as if they're on a number line. So where it's 0, 1, and 2, you can tell which one of these numbers is larger than the other. So it's greater than 1 because it's farther right of the number line. Just like we do that with 1.0 and 2.0. There are tools out there that will do that. We compare numbers like 2015 and 1776. That's the scale. And that's not the same. This There's another way to compare things with the longer dates. You'll see this in version numbers in a lot of places. In particular, this scheme, you can use the date command to construct it, and that scheme is the default for luggage. If you haven't ever used that tool, if you don't specify any other version numbers, you will get something that looks like this. So, how do we do comparisons with those? Well, Python progressing. There is capability in Python that does two modules, Python modules, the distutils module and the subtools module. If we import either one of those, there are methods underneath them, strict version, loose version, distutils, or parse version for the setup tools module. And how would we use it? Like this. If I import distutils, I can then say version, loose version, and I pick a string. And for normally I'm going to get this information out of the string from the command line or from the key list. And then I can, but the nice thing is with these commands, I can convert them into a version number object that I can compare numerically with greater than equal to or less than signs to determine whether something is newer or older. And in this case, I'll compare the 10.4.1 to 10.4.11.4 comes out false, and it's an actual comparison, treating it as if it's one and number one. The Python module understand things like alpha, and beta, and so on for these, which is somewhat useful if you want to compare things like an SSL version with 8 and 7. Another one is package resources module. Same comparison here, same result. There are cases where they will differ. But this is the basic, the distutils version of this is what Monkey uses, for example, when it does version comparisons. Packaging resources is used less frequently, but it's used by some of the Python internal packaging. So if we can do comparisons using only strings, which is something we commonly have to do with systems, because our tools don't give us any richer way to do those numeric comparisons. And then the number line again. If we want to get everything that is 10.8 or later, we want to throw out the things that are 10.7 or lower. We want to just get things that are 10.8 or lower. How do we do that with strings? One way is to do this really long setup where you start by comparing, but the version starts with 10 dot, 10 dot. All the versions of OS 10 up to this point, so that would throw us to sometime in the future, starts with 10 dot. And from there, strip out all of the old versions that are below 10. So we have to do all the way to 10.0 setup. And we're using the periods and everything to answer it. Casper, how can we do this? How can we implement this in Casper? Because Casper, at least up to this point, I've never found a way to do a numeric comparison unless you're doing using a script that's running on the client. Or perhaps something that would be an API call with Gem Casper. You can construct a smart group or inventory search that uses that same technique. You do 10 dot, start with 10 dot, and then join everything with an and. Start with the lowest version of OS 10 that you're managing, because we all have PowerPC systems running 10.3. So you probably don't have any more than running 10.2 anymore. So you start with 10.3 and just go on. So the result of this smart group inventory search would give us everything that's 10.8 or later. In Monkey, even though Monkey has all these capabilities of using Python for version comparison, there are cases where it gets stuck with strings. And that happens with conditionals. So in conditional blocking, we want to do the same kind of comparison that 10 dot or later. We'll make this long condition. And this goes all the way back to 10.0. I didn't strip out all of this 10.2 systems. So we're starting with the 10 dot string. saying and not, and then we're gonna gate this compound safely. So everything that's in this block will not be action against, and anything that isn't in that block should be inhibited. So with that, we have reached the point of questions, or the point where you can wake up now. So if anybody has any questions or comments, like why put us through this? Excellent. I don't know if that concludes our meeting for tonight. Now we'll talk about content.
We still have, not taking out. So at this point, if you want to open up for discussion, yeah, because we still have technically exact percent loss. Steve.
1941.
Yes, 43. So yeah, let's open up to the floor and people can move. Our thanks goes out to Alex for hosting us this month, and providing us with some lovely swag. And thanks to Mom and Dave for having this summer space. So, so we'll go through the discussion, and we'll see you all at the Christmas branded December meeting. So, a short event where you're ready to meet.
You can do holiday branded?
Holiday branded.
There we go. Okay. I'm super one.
All right, so yeah.
Now we all.
So, yeah, so.
Anybody got any problems they're trying to solve?
Many.
Where it starts.
Where to start, yes. So.
It's still streaming.
Yep. I can shut it down.
I'll take it.